What's going on, guys? We're having a good time.
The culture has changed so much. Everybody can grow and learn and develop.
When we make products for the world, we have to have perspective of the world.
We get a lot of benefit by having a lot of diverse ideas in the room. We all bring something different to the table, and that's our strength.
Basically, you end up having a team of highly collaborative friends that work together.
That's why you have a tribe. That's why you have a community. And that's just how we make the world a better place.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
That's why Microsoft.
All right, everyone, welcome to our Microsoft Explore info session. We thank you all for giving of your next hour to just spend more time with us, and we'll go ahead and jump right on in. So the purpose of today's event is to not only familiarize yourself with Microsoft a bit more and our All Up Explorer program, but we also want you to hear from people who have been in the Explore program before on their experience, how they got to Microsoft, and what the Explore program has done for them since they've been a part of it. We're hoping that you will also learn a bit more about our recruiting process and our application timeline, and get any of the questions that you have answered as it just pertains to the Explore program. We do ask, though, that you keep your questions reserved for two portions of our event. That will be after RJ Hayes gives our recruiting process so that you can ask more questions directly to a recruiter. And then during the former Explore panel, so that you can ask maybe more of your pointed questions to some of our former Explore interns. That being said, we'll go ahead and get started. And to welcome us, we'll have Miri Rodriguez, the head of our Global Internship Program.
Thank you so much, Aaron, and welcome everyone. I am personally so excited, and I know everyone on this team is extremely excited to share with you some insights, to get to know you a little bit better, and to share a little bit about us, about Microsoft, about this program. My name is Miri Rodriguez, as Aaron was kind to say and share, and I lead the internship program, and I can tell you from my perspective that it's such an exciting time at Microsoft, and we love what we do because we love bringing people like you to Microsoft. We love to get to know you. We love to get to know your story and see how you change our DNA, our culture more and more to become what Microsoft is meant to be, a place to empower every person and organization on the planet to achieve more. I graduated in Trinity International University, class of 2004, many moons ago. And then actually Microsoft gave me the opportunity to complete my master's at Georgetown University. So I graduated last year. It was a personal goal. It had nothing to do with career. It was more like, hey, I want to do this. And Microsoft is like, yeah, go do it, because that's what we do. We empower each other here at Microsoft. And for me, I've always been about diversity, inclusion, about empowerment. It's my mantra. It's what I live for. And it's something that I share personally with the work that I do individually, but also from a global scale perspective in the work that I do. So I really love to see diversity of thought and process and stories. I love everyone's lived experiences, bringing that to the table with insights. It's really exciting to see. Fun fact about me, I actually played and was the lead voice for a rock band many years ago. It's actually paid, and so we actually got some paid gigs back in Florida many years ago. So that was fun. It was kind of my rebel stage, I guess. Not where I got my tattoos, but definitely I had it in me. So I played electric and a rhythm guitar as well. With that, I want to share just a couple of truths, some things that for me have proven to be successful. Actually, just 5 quick things that for me, you know, everybody wants to succeed. Everybody wants to be happy in life. And now at 42, believe it or not, I found some kind of secrets to that success, and I want to share those with you. The first one that is a real truth to me is the fact that you have to define your own success. We find ourselves just trying to understand what that looks like. We find people telling us what that is. By age, whatever, you have to do this. By age, whatever, you have to be this. And then we feel like a failure if we don't achieve that milestone. And I found through my own experiences, life is not linear. Success is not linear. We get to actually just kind of experience the journey, and it's beautiful to be able to tell ourselves what success looks like. So tell yourself, hey, success to me is this. And you get influenced by so many different things, but if you look at your goal and say, for me it's being happy, for me it's having a good meal with my friends, that is success. You'll be able to kind of enrich your life in many different ways, not just this linear kind of tunnel vision that makes you feel like a failure if you didn't achieve it. Success is many different things I've found. For me specifically, success is being good at the many things that I am. I'm a mom, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, I'm a worker, I'm so many things. And so being all these things, it's asking myself, hey, how good can I be? Can I give my best? And am I giving my best? Is that a threshold? I don't know. I'm just trying to give my best. If I, you know, at the end of my life, I look back and I'm like, hey, did I really try? Then that's success to me. If I can say, yes, I tried to be really good at all these things that encompass who I am. The second piece about, you know, being happy in life is success is not linear. You get to define it. It's also a team sport. So you don't get there alone. Nobody does. Somebody changed your diaper, right? Somebody took you to school. Somebody taught you to read. These are things that maybe unless you taught to read yourself to read, but in essence, this idea that all of us are here because someone instilled values and helped us and shaped us to be here today. And that will continue through your life, right? Success is going to be people. Get a tribe, get people that help you succeed because you won't get there alone. I certainly am not here by myself. All of the things that I enjoy today, coming from the slums of Venezuela. Today, I work for an incredible company. I get to do so many fun things. It's my dream job, and I didn't get here alone. So remember that you don't get here alone. Get a tribe of people, and I think that's number 3. Is find your tribe, because you have to, leave a legacy for yourself, actually. No, go ahead on the next slide. You gotta leave a legacy. So success is something that you get to define and that you bring people along the journey with you to help you get there, but also it's beyond yourself, right? So it would be very kind of shallow if you just define success like, oh, graduating top of my class. Okay, and then what? What's after that, right? That's very self-serving. Leaving a legacy, all of us really want to leave a mark, especially using Microsoft as a platform. If you want to come here, our job here is to give you this platform that you go leave a legacy. We want to empower the world and we want to take you along the journey. We want you to lead that as well. So it's not just about us and our personal individual success, it's about people. It's about the world, right? So that legacy, that immortalization that we give ourselves goes beyond us. So that, what is that legacy? Define that as well. Number 4. Next slide. Brand yourself. Brand yourself. This is something that I tell everyone that meets me. It is so important to use your stories. I wrote a book about brand storytelling because it is that important. It's important that you find your voice. I would not be here if I didn't do that for myself, if I didn't go on channels, especially if you if you come from a minority background. It is so hard. It is so hard to come into a place like a tech space where there's still legacy. It's still there, right? So we have to find our voices. We have to brand ourselves. Nobody's going to do that for you. Nobody's going to tell the stories that you are. Not your boss, not your mom, nobody. You got to do it yourself. Use the platforms, brand yourself, tell your story, talk about your story, tell someone your story, because if you don't, somebody else is going to, and it may not be what you want. So be sure to use those channels. And you're going to learn today how important those channels are, how we look at LinkedIn for sourcing. It's really things that we do when we hire people, when we consider people as a candidate. And lastly, the last nugget of information, not just for yourself. When you brand yourself, when you tell your stories, it's not just about you again, it's about the future, right? As a Latina and a woman in tech, I've pivoted my career 4 times at Microsoft. I've been in engineering, I've been in customer service and support, I've been in operations. Lately, I've been in HR. Never did I think I would end up in HR. But here's the thing about life. right? If you open your life to success, you've defined that, and you understand that this is not just about you. If you think about bringing people along the journey with you, and you're thankful and grateful for that journey, then the future opens up differently, right? Your legacy is not going to be just about you, and you think beyond yourself. So what I do today doesn't just impact me or my kids. That's very kind of not noble. It's just my family. But if I expand that, I'm doing things beyond me for other women in tech, for other Latinos in tech. And that's how it expands. That's how it pays forward. So think about who you are. Think about your story, think about your brand, and how you can bring that to Microsoft so that we can give you that platform to achieve more.
Absolutely. Great advice, Miri, and I mean, a stellar person to take the advice from as well. And so now that you are feeling extremely excited, hopefully very inspired to really think about what your future could be, we want you to think about, as Miri was saying, Microsoft being that platform for you. And particularly many of you on the call, or those who may be interested in this program, are freshmen or sophomores. So really at the beginning stages of your career, begin thinking ahead. Today, we'll talk, hopefully these are some of the questions that will be answered for you, just as we give more of this overview of what the program is, what we're looking for, and what you can expect if you participate in it. So some of those questions might be, what is the Explore program at Microsoft, and how does it differ from our other internship program? What makes me stand out as an applicant? And then how can I get involved? Luckily, RJ is going to tag team with me on this piece, and so he will be covering more of the recruiting piece. Once again, as we kind of referenced earlier, you'll want to save many of your questions for the end of his presentation. So from a high level, let's just talk about the Microsoft Explore program. If you break it down into sort of just three different pillars, you think about the opportunity that this has to really springboard you forward in a lot of your learning and contribution. So it's a mix of being both a software engineer as well as a program manager for a duration of 12 weeks. Over the course of these 12 weeks, due to your combined learning and contribution, you'll build skills in both areas. And the desire here is that you're bringing in a lot of your interest and a lot of the questions that you have, like maybe which path do I want to go down? Is tech right for me? And so during this full up experience, not only with the combined learning of being a SWE and a PM, but also all of the other experiential learning that you'll have through some of the events that we have, such as fireside chats with some of our executives, or brown bag lunches, so that you can learn more from people who have been in the industry for a long time. We hope that you are able to come out of the Explore program with a clearer path forward for yourself, but also some experience under your belt. Throughout the 12 weeks, you'll also have the opportunity to co-create. This means really, like Miri was saying, leaving your impact, your imprint on Microsoft. Coming in and understanding what might be missing within the intern community that you're a part of, what might be missing at our company, and what have we not thought about before, and how can you, throughout your 12 weeks, build that. One example is Hoops for the Homeless. Bring in your passion to maybe organize and bring people together over a cause that you care about. I know that one of the really big questions for the Explore program, because it is very competitive, is often, how can I stand out as an applicant? So while I want to make very clear that the only requirements for our program, you know, other than your class eligibility, which we'll get into in a moment, are just that you have kind of taken those, intro to programming and Calculus 1 respective courses at your school. From there, we want to begin thinking about how this program really is designed to ignite interest. It's designed to sort of leap you forward in this industry and to sort of water you and I hope that you grow no matter where this program takes you. So while you might be coming in with not a lot of maybe experience under your belt, we do hope that you have taken those courses, that you have some type of demonstrated interest in tech and some type of maybe spark that we can help ignite and that you can continue to build on. On this slide, I hope to just make the delineation a bit more clear between the Microsoft Explore internship and our standard suite or PM internship. Once again, there's a class eligibility requirement. So you do have to be a freshman or sophomore applying into this program. The program, whereas for our internship, those are mainly a lot of juniors who are going to be participating in it. Through the Explore program, you have both combined learning of being a program manager as well as a software engineer. Later on in the panel, you'll be able to ask some of those questions directly to panelists. And then some of the panelists even charted their path forward by either coming back as a program manager intern, a SWE intern, or both, because they wanted to kind of continue that learning. But understand that in a standard suite or PM internship, you are only either or. Whereas with the Explore internship, you get the benefit of combined learning. Once again, this is a program designed to build on the interests that you have, to springboard you forward, to kind of be that leap pad that you need in getting into the industry. So you often see that a lot of the students in our program might not have those meaty internships, but what they will have, and what I'll talk about in a second, is how they have demonstrated their interest through projects, hackathons, or even getting a campus job. The last sort of delineation is that through the Microsoft Explore internship, you will be in a pod. This means that you'll be working with about 2 other Explore interns to build progress and make your deliverable really come to life. Whereas when you are in a standard internship, you are much more the independent, the self-starter. And that's where the benefit of maybe being a former intern at a larger company or reiterating a lot of concepts through being a course instructor might come into help you with our standard internship. So when I talk about this being a big program to continue to build on your interests, I want you to think about what some of our recruiters might be assessing for. Have you participated? I think the upper left picture is a women's hackathon there at Duke called Pearl Hacks, right? Have you participated in hackathons? Have you been a part of teams? Or have you just built really cool apps with other people in your classes or your friends? Are you a part of established organizations like NSBE? NSBE stands for the National Society of Black Engineers, SHIP standing for our Society of Hispanic Engineers, or have you created your own organization that bridges together your interest in tech? Do you maybe have a YouTube channel where, and as you see there, some of her books on the side are talking about Java languages and HTML, where you maybe break down larger concepts, or where you just talk about newer things that are coming up in the tech space? Have you been a camp counselor to help other kids, begin coding? So when we think about what some of this interest could look like on a resume, I want you to keep these things in mind. And then also through our interview process, maybe thinking a bit more about our brands, understanding, or maybe having an opinion. What if the Bing user interface maybe looked a bit different so that it could help disabled communities or someone with a visual impairment? What do we think about maybe Dynamics 365 being leveraged in the healthcare sector to build dashboards and apps, a lot of apps that help with a lot of the healthcare allocation during COVID? So sometimes thinking a bit about our brands, having an opinion on maybe how you've used them, or what you maybe think could be better. If you're a big gamer, there's Xbox. Those are just some of the tips that will help you really stand out through our process and really show that you're interested and that you're a great candidate for the program. However, when we just talk about more specifically, like what are the steps that I need to take, or what are the timelines that I'm looking at, I want to bring in RJ Hayes to talk more about our recruiting process.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for inviting me to come speak today, Aaron. I'm very excited to be talking about the Explore internship. So you've now heard Miri give a great intro. You've heard Aaron talk about the logistics of the Explore program. And so you might be kind of fired up to apply. So here I'm going to talk a little bit about the actual recruiting process and the steps that you can take and some tips and tricks for you to throughout the recruiting process. So first, a little bit about me. My name is RJ Hayes. I am a university recruiter. I work mostly with software engineer candidates and PM candidates. I graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, both in 2014 and 2016. So hello to my fellow Badgers out there. My purpose at Microsoft, I always am focusing on creating a culture of technology that is representative and inclusive of the world that we live in. So thinking of, who we're hiring from all angles, all backgrounds, it's definitely top of mind for me always at Microsoft. And then a little fun fact about me is that I've lived in a couple different countries besides the US. I've lived in Hungary, Brazil, and Mozambique for a total of 4 years. Cool. So yeah, let's jump into the recruiting process. But before I jump into it, I do want to talk a little bit about the scope of the teams that you could possibly fall under as an Explore intern. So this slide here shows how we are organized from an engineering perspective and our leadership behind those orgs. So first of all, you'll see Scott Guthrie leads cloud and AI. And if you've ever searched Scott Guthrie online, you will see lots of images of a red polo because that's kind of his signature look. But anyways, Scott Guthrie's team drives our platform coherence. So some of the teams that you will find on there that are big names are Cognitive Services, Microsoft Azure, Dynamics 365, Visual Studio, and so much more. Then moving on to Rajesh's org, Experience and Devices, his org focuses on a unifying product ethos. So you'll see under him, you could fall on the Microsoft Edge team. We're working on Microsoft Surface, Microsoft 365, Office, which is a pretty popular one, OneNote, Outlook. There's lots of different options here as well. Kevin Scott's org, Technology and Research, you'll see that you can fall under Bing and machine learning and the ever popular field of AI. So some really exciting opportunities here. You'll also notice that there's robotics here as well. Phil Spencer leads our very fun org of gaming. So if you've ever heard of Xbox or Xbox Live, Microsoft Studios, those are some of the teams that fall under Phil Spencer's. And then Kurtel Benny leads the core services and core services engineering, digital strategy, and operations. So here he works on growth opportunities, operations, performance analysis. And then you'll see that Ryan Rolansky heads LinkedIn. So about half of Microsoft's employees work in engineering roles under Scott, Rajesh, Kevin, and Phil. So those cloud and AI platforms, experience and devices, technology and research, and gaming. So as an Explore intern, there's a great chance that you too could fall under one of these orgs. All right, so now I'm just gonna walk through the recruiting timeline a little bit. So first you will apply. Our applications open in August, so you may have seen them already. Sorry, excuse me. So as I mentioned, our applications open in August. So you can log on to Microsoft.com/university to find the Explore application if you have not yet applied. Between September and November, our recruiters are reviewing your resumes and your applications and sending people through to the first round screens, which will happen between September and December, and maybe a little bit into January and February as well. And then you will see that our final round events are scheduled through October all the way to March. So some of you may have participated in a final round interview event already this October, whereas others might fall into ones down the line. So if you have not yet applied, I would suggest that you take a look at your resume and just keep in mind some of these do's and don'ts. or sorry, the do's and don'ts are on the next slide. My bad. For this one, I want to talk a little bit about your resume. If you don't have experience quite yet, because we do understand that as an Explore intern, a lot of you are freshmen and sophomores or first and second year students at your universities. So if you don't have experience quite yet with an internship, there are still so many things that you could put on a resume, such as a cool school project that you did, whether you were in a group or whether you worked alone. We love to see what you worked on. Some side projects, something that we love looking at is how you take technology and transform it outside of the classroom as well. So if you have a side project or an app or something that you'd like to show, definitely put that on your resume. Volunteer activities are just as important as work experience. We love to see the passions that you bring to Microsoft. So we know that volunteering, whether you're teaching coding to high school students or whether you are volunteering at a food pantry, we love to see volunteer activities as well. And then, as Aaron mentioned earlier, we do look for hackathons and different competitions such as math Olympiads and specific things that are specific competitions that happen at your school. And then finally, it's always good to add some awards, certificates, and honors. There's a lot of great recognition out there. So if you were recognized for something and awarded a certificate or honor or awards for it, we would love to see it. And if you do have work experience, let's say you have done an internship, maybe you had one in high school or you had one after your freshman year, your first year of college, just make sure to put the company that you worked for as well as the industry, the role that you worked at, that you had, and then the dates starting with the month and the year so that we can see when you worked there. And then in the bullet points below, make sure to add sort of the scope and impact of your work. All right, I got a little ahead of myself in the last slide, but I do want to talk about the do's and don'ts of resumes because I know that there's a lot of myths and questions about resumes out there. So I just wanted to provide you with a couple of do's and don'ts. So the first do that I'm going to talk about is to keep your resume to 1 page for every 10 years of experience. We get a lot of questions about, hey, my resume goes a little bit longer than 1 page. I'm curious if I can submit a resume with 2 pages. And while yes, you can, it's always good to keep it at 1 page. LinkedIn is a really great tool for you to expand on your resume. So if you have more that you want to say or more experience that doesn't quite fit on your resume, definitely head over to your LinkedIn and update your LinkedIn with that information. Keep it in PDF format or the final version that you plan on using so that when we open it, we can see it in PDF format. Sometimes with different programs, it opens up weird and the formatting and the fonts and colors get changed up and it can be tough to read sometimes. Just keep in mind clear fonts and dark ink. We don't need any fancy cursive. We don't need crazy colors. Just something easy to read, digestible, and straightforward. And then make sure to spell check. That one might seem sort of obvious, but I know from personal experience that I will read my resume 100 times and then I'll send it to a friend. And I'll send it to Aaron and I'll say, Aaron, can you check out my resume? And he's like, you spelled your name wrong. So, so just make sure to spell check and have a friend spell check it as well. Be specific and provide details. So as I was talking about in the last slide, we want to see the scope of the work. We don't want to try to pick apart an ambiguous statement of what you worked on. So be specific, use specific numbers. That helps us digest the information. And then tailor your resume to the role that you're applying to. So when you're applying to the Explore program, go into the career site under the Microsoft Explore job qualifications, and you can try to tailor your resume to fit the job descriptions. So those are just some of the do's. As far as don'ts, we don't need you to make a heading that says resume or CV or curriculum vitae. It's not necessary. We know that it's a resume. Please don't add a picture We don't need to see a picture. I mean, we would love to, but resumes don't need pictures. That we have LinkedIn for that. And then we don't need your personal info, such as your age, your date of birth, or your gender. That can differ in some countries, but resumes in the US, we do not need that information. And then like inappropriate or silly email addresses, that one is, you know, I'll put that under the don'ts, but I don't really want to see, well, I mean, maybe, but as a recruiter, I wouldn't love to see like Cupcake Queen 27, you know, at Gmail or something like that. So try to keep an email address, your name, something easy for us to remember you by. Okay, so now that we went through the interview process a little bit, or the resume process a little bit, I'm going to talk about the interview process. As I mentioned, from September through November, give or take, we are doing first round interviews for Explore roles. So the first round interview is kind of laid out like this. You'll have one interviewer. It'll be 30 minutes, either virtually or over the phone. And it's just a general assessment from Microsoft and the function that you'll be working in. So you will see some technical questions as well as behavioral questions. And then we will deliver the results between 5 to 7 business days. And this interviewer is from a functional group. So you'll either have like a software engineer interviewer or a PM interviewer. You won't necessarily be talking with the interviewer whose team you would fall on, or you would fall into if you get the role. So let's say you pass the first round interview and you head on to the final interviews. Those, as I mentioned, are happening now, starting in October and going through March. And with those final round interviews, it'll be 2 interviewers conducted by interviewers from an actual team, a team that you could be placed under. They will be virtual, done via Teams. And then they will be specifically assessing you for their team and the role. And so the questions might dig a little bit deeper than they did in the first round interview. With this interview, we will deliver the results within 1 to 2 weeks and try our best to work around any competing deadlines you may have. And you also might receive some individualized prep support from a recruiter. So the recruiter who you've been working with, who puts you through to the first round screen and then to the final rounds, might send you some prep materials that are really great to review before the interview happens. All right, and just the last slide I'd like to focus on is just some things that will help you to convey if you make it to the first round screen or the second round screen. These are some of the 3 things that we love to see. So passion. What are you doing that, or what is your passion? What are you bringing to work, and what passion will you bring to Microsoft? Versatility. How are you in flexible situations or working on different teams, working with different team members? And then your drive. Like, what is your drive for results? How do you get work done? That type of information. And then, so just 4 things to keep in mind when you're preparing for your interviews is, why Microsoft? You might get that question. What about the role? What about the Explore role makes you want to join Microsoft? What is the work that Microsoft is doing that attracted you to the company and attracted you to apply? And then brush up on your technical acumen, because in the Explore interviews, you will be assessed technically as well. Make sure to bring up examples about when you worked on a team, or when you led a team, or when you were part of a team, some challenges that you faced working as a team and how you overcame them. And then any situation that you might have working with customers, whether you were a manager at a coffee shop and you worked with customers and you wanted to deliver the best results, or you created an app that customers use daily. That is the type of information that interviewers love to see. So I believe that's all I have in terms of the interview process. I'll be sticking around at the end of the intern panel for any Q&A that you might have about recruiting, but I'll hand it back over to Aaron.
Yep, sounds correct. All right, so for our next part of the event, we'll be moving into the former Explore intern panel. I'm super happy to bring in 4 different panelists that have all been Explore interns before. We'll kind of go ahead and let them introduce themselves from left to right on the slide, and then we'll just get into some of the questions that we have. Also understand this is a time for you in the Q&A to send in your questions as well. So certainly stay engaged with some of our conversation just to make sure that your questions are being asked. But if you have any that aren't, add those into the chat.
Hi everyone, my name is Jacqueline Gibson. I'm currently a software engineer 2 on Accessibility Insights, which is we create open source accessibility tooling for developer teams. But I was an Explore intern in 2016. I came back to Microsoft for 2 additional suite internships in summer 2017 and summer 2018, and that's kind of how I got to be in front of you today. I really enjoyed my Explore experience. I got to learn more about being a PM versus being a SWE, which is something that I was debating at the time in my freshman year, and I can't speak highly enough of the program. So excited to get to talk to you guys, answer any questions you might have.
Hello, everyone. I'm Miri Rodriguez, born and raised in Monterrey, Mexico. So I had the opportunity to be in the Explore program in 2016. Then afterwards, I did 2 more internships as a SWE. And finally, I came back in 2019 just as Jacqueline, as a software developer in the Windows Hardware Error Architecture team. So.
Hi guys, my name is Anahita Garai. I was actually an Explore intern this previous summer in 2020. It was a virtual experience, so that was really cool, and we can get into that later about how my experience was. But yeah, I go to the University of Washington and I'm graduating in 2023, so that makes me a sophomore this year. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Aaron, and the rest of the team. Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Tessa Weidman. I am a software engineer on one of the education teams here at Microsoft. I did my Explore internship in 2017 when I was studying computer science at the University of Cincinnati in Ohio. And I also did another SWE internship the summer after, and then I started full-time about a little over a year ago, and also loved my experiences as an intern, and I'm really excited to be here today.
Absolutely. So our very first question for the panelists is, as you know, Explore is a very introductory program into the industry, into Microsoft. What made you want to say, you know, I want to begin my career at Microsoft?
I can go for this one. Yeah, so for me, I didn't really find a program similar to the Explore internship at other companies. I know Google has a step 1 or something, but I came across the Explore internship first, and because I was a previous intern as a high schooler, I already kind of knew like how the internship program was at Microsoft, and I loved it in high school. I still love it. So yeah, and I honestly didn't know if I wanted to do the program management route or SWE, or I think even in my internship we had a D&I role too. I'm not sure if that's still the case, but I just thought like the 3 broad spectrums were super cool to investigate, and that's what brought me to Microsoft, as well as the community, because it is very inclusive, and I've learned that in my previous 3 internships, and it's something that hasn't changed, and I'm very proud of Microsoft for that. So.
Yeah, I'll echo that and say that the culture of Microsoft was what really stood out to me when I was considering what internships I wanted to apply for. I'm sure any of the freshmen on the call know that it's really tough to get an internship as a freshman. And so kind of had a more narrow pool. And so I did a lot of research into the different companies that were open to hiring someone with my level of experience and just where I was in terms of my computer science studies. And Microsoft just really stood out in terms of the culture that they had, the ability that I'd be able to not just focus on SWE work, but also have a little bit of experience in program management, and I really wanted to be able to go into a program that was going to let me learn, kind of be a learn-it-all, which is something that we joke about at Microsoft, but to be able to learn and really understand which path would be right for me and shape kind of my path for the next 2 summers moving forward.
Yeah, for me, I think it was knowing that Microsoft is such a big company and it has such a big reach and you can impact so many people and help so many people. That was what initially drew me to Microsoft. I was like, I'm a second-year student. I'll never get an internship at a place like Microsoft. And then I heard about the Explore program and was so excited. I didn't know anyone that had done the program. I had no idea what it was about, did some more research and applied. And I'm so glad that there is an experience like this for first and second year students, because I think it is so important that you get to explore through those different positions and kind of figure out what you like in a role.
Yeah, for me, it was pretty similar as Tessa. So at the beginning, I didn't know that I want this. I was like, oh yeah, an internship. What is an internship? I wasn't even aware that those things existed when I was in freshman and sophomore. But then a friend told me about the Microsoft internship experience, that there was this program called Microsoft Explore. I investigated more and said like, well, let's apply. What is the worst thing that could happen? I don't think I will make it to a big company like Microsoft, but I preferred the recruiters to tell me that instead of me telling to myself. And it ended up happening, and I learned a lot in the Explore program and a lot about not only technology, but the people I work with and the values of the company that made me continue coming back as an intern multiple times and now as a full-time.
And you know, Diego, I really like your answer there. Like maybe I didn't think that this company was in reach for me. I probably would not have gone for Microsoft initially thinking about it. So maybe how did you kind of prepare, or what were the steps that you took? And do you have any advice for someone who might be thinking like, wow, this is a really big name, a big company. What can I sort of do to get there? Or do any of our panelists?
Sure, I can start. So first of all, I think it's important to have dreams. I think we already have a small talk at the beginning with Miri about this. But when you have dreams, you have your big goals, you can work towards them and achieve them. So maybe it can seem like Microsoft is a huge company that it's almost impossible to apply or to achieve a position in there. But if you never try, if you never give your best, you will never be able to know if you have already prepared or not for the position. So that's the first step. Apply, try your best, be open for the rejection. Maybe it happens, maybe you apply and you don't get a position this time. It's fine. You learn, you practice, you try, which is the important part. So that's why my first advice is don't have fear about rejection, give it a shot. And how to prepare? Well, go to your classes, that's also important, but also try to go one different way. I mean, learn with your friends, ask other people that are maybe in your college and are in different years, ask the people that already went through an internship experience, what they can tell you, which websites you can use to prepare. There's a good one that it's called Lead Code. It's very good to practice, have different kind of programs. And yeah, I mean, if you really are passionate about the job you're applying for, you will not see this like, oh, I need to prepare for a position or for the interviews. We will be more like, I'm having fun, while also making sure that I will have a better performance in the interview.
I 100% agree with all of that. And especially want to reiterate the piece of finding people to study with, friends, especially upperclassmen, people that have already gone through internship interviews, even just interviews before. As much practice as you can get with other people. I think student groups are a great way to find other people that are involved that might have similar interests and that are happy to answer any questions that you might have about what it's like and help you practice. I had one person who was a year above me who had done a bunch of interviews, and I was just like, I'm so nervous, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to prepare, can you just sit down with me and do like a practice interview? And so we went to like an empty classroom and he pretended to be my interviewer, and that was really helpful. But if you don't have someone off the top of your head that you that could help you in that way, go to a student group and ask someone there. Or maybe your academic advisor, or I'm sure there are all sorts of resources at your school that can help with these sorts of things. You just have to go and find them.
Yeah, to add on to that, I know Microsoft has a lot of resources online for interview prep questions. And so I remember when I was preparing, I would go through all of those, and I made my sister ask me them. And she's older, so she had gone through the process of interviews with other companies, and she gave me some good advice. So I definitely second that. Definitely talk to people that have already been through interview processes, ask them about their experience or like critiquing you on your answers. And I just remember something that I would always tell myself before interviews, like just be yourself. Don't be super reserved if you feel like you have to, or filtered, I guess. Obviously filter appropriately, but yeah, I think a big aspect of Microsoft is that not only your work ethic matters, but personality and what you bring to the company matters. And so I think that if you're just yourself and you have kind of like a conversation, like a more serious professional conversation with your interviewer, then yeah, just be confident in who you are and do good.
Yeah, and I would definitely just echo what everyone else has shared, that really tap into resources on campus or what Microsoft offers through university recruiting are super helpful, but also just to go into this with an open mind, similar to kind of what Diego was saying, and just be upfront about what your limitations are. So if you don't understand something, feel free to share that with your recruiter, because I think that that shows more about the type of engineer you can be if you're willing to own up to something you don't know, rather than try to just get panicked and then act like you know something and then get deeper into a mistake. So.
Absolutely. And so thanks for just more of those pointers on maybe, you know, what you were doing in the months leading up to your interview. Now, when you came to Microsoft and you started your Explore internship, tell us a little bit about maybe what your project looked like or the impact that was expected of you from your manager.
So I worked in the enterprise and security team under Azure Cosign. And so my internship was definitely more geared towards program management work. Obviously we had some SWE and some dev and D&I work as well. But for us, it was just a lot of customer interaction, which I really liked. We had a lot of meetings with customers that were trying to try out our security products. And it was just like a very good, well-rounded internship where you got the customer interaction, the program management portion of it. I had a really awesome pod member. We didn't really like switch roles. We kind of stayed on the same role and moved towards it together, which I think is probably not the most traditional way Microsoft does it. I think you, I think you start as PM and then your partner starts as dev and then you switch. So that was kind of what my experience was like. And I had one other pod member. So yeah, that was my experience.
For me, I worked in the Universal store in building 83, which is the building that you see like in all of the Microsoft videos about the campus. It was a really cool building, very cool team. We did a lot of web development work, which all three of us had never had any experience with. So we all started from the same level, which was really helpful. And then we did switch through the different roles, and I think it really depends on team by team how the internship is kind of structured, and also how many other pod mates you have. So I had 2 other pod mates, and so we switched through 3 different mini projects actually throughout the summer. And so each one of us got to be like the lead engineer or the lead PM on one of the different mini projects, and then we got to present 3 different times throughout the summer. So and I've talked to a bunch of different Explorer interns that have all had a variety of different experiences. So it really depends on what team you end up on and what kind of technology that they're working on. But I think the the general experience of getting to explore through those different roles and having some sort of project at the end to deliver is a common thread, definitely.
And so I had 2 pod mates as well, and we started out together all doing the PM role, so kind of designing the scope for our one project that we did throughout the summer. And then after that, myself and one of my other pod mates, we kind of shifted into SWE work, while another pod mate who was super interested in being PM kind of stayed in that role. And so we were able to collaborate on building out a site that allowed customers to be able to create incidents and people on our team be able to track them. And so it was a pretty cool experience. Got to have experiences with both like being PM and SWE.
Well, for me, it was more of the same. I had 2 podmates. It was pretty cool. People from different places around the globe, which was pretty nice, a good learning experience. I work in the service authentication team in Office 365, so it was about security. And I think the expectations that I like from my manager is they wanted us to perform as regular interns or full-times. He didn't make a distinction like, oh, you're an explorer, so everything is going to be easier. It was like you guys have each other to help and develop the project, which was super good, good for learning experience, because we needed to learn and develop a huge project that had a great impact because it was security-wise. So that's something I really like, that even though sometimes we had a lot of great times and then we had some struggle to get the project done during the summer, we learned about each other of the podmates, and with the support of our manager and mentors, we were able to deliver a good product, and yeah, it's still being used up to this date.
Yeah, and I love that answer, Diego. You know, something that was relevant, something that was needed in our team. And I loved also Tessa's point about maybe being a bit flexible and being open to what could change over the course of your internship and where those interests might align on different needs. But just as we think about being flexible, Anahita, we'd love to just understand more about the virtual internship. You know, I think that is a great sign of adaptability and really being flexible. And so what was it like for you this summer?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about the virtual internship. It was honestly great. I've had the experience of having the in-person internship as well. So just comparing the two, obviously there's pros and cons to both. The virtual internship I thought was very well planned. There were intern events every single week. There was like multiple actually. And I remember going to them, and the worries you had going into it, I didn't have during the internship. Like, one of my biggest worries was, oh, how am I gonna communicate with other interns, or how am I gonna network and get like that personal interaction? But with all the events that the Microsoft Intern program put on, it was so easy. And yeah, it was also very nice having all of your meetings just in one place. You can, you don't have to travel to work. You can honestly just get up and get on your computer. It's super chill. You can sleep in a little bit, which I like. But yeah, no, I thought it was honestly a very great experience, and the intern program team did a very good job of trying to mimic the in-person internship.
Great. Well, I have one last question, and then we're gonna bring in RJ as well. So if you all have any sort of final questions, we're about at the last 6 or so minutes of the event. And so just go ahead and add those, particularly if you have a recruiting question. We'll bring RJ back so that he can answer those. You know, here at Microsoft, we talk about our company being a platform to pursue your passions. Our CEO encourages all the employees to sort of find what that passion is and bring it to Microsoft for future leverage. How have any of you used Microsoft as a platform, either through Explore or now, you know, as you continue in your career?
For me, I have always known that I was really interested and passionate about education. And so when I got the Explore internship, I just got placed in a random team in the Universal store. And like I said, it was a really awesome team and I loved the people that I worked with, but I always knew that I was really interested in education. So I did a little bit of researching and talking to people the summer that I was here. As an Explore intern, and then I ended up getting a return internship offer for one of the education teams. And so I really, I didn't know anything about what Microsoft even worked on in education until I started talking to more people that are working in the space right now. And so if I didn't have that internship experience, I wouldn't have ended up where I am now. And now, even as an engineer, and I think this is something that the Explore internship helped with as well, is I know that I love engineering and software development, but I also know that I love working with customers and being very more of like the typical PM sort of work. And so even as an engineer, I get to work with our education customer engagement team. And so I get to work directly with customers, especially now since everything that's virtual and remote learning, we needed a lot more support. And so I'm actually helping shape what our higher ed student engagement looks like. So even as an engineer, I get to do some of that PM work, and that's something that's really important to me and is something that I'm really grateful for. I get to mix some of my own passions in education with my role as an engineer, and I'm grateful that Microsoft not only supports me in doing that, but encourages me.
Yeah, to piggyback off of what Tessa said, the great thing about Microsoft is that once you're in the company, it's so easy to just network with other people, get ideas of what other people are working on or what other groups there are within Microsoft. So that's what I did in my virtual internship. I talked to a lot of different organizations in the co-sign team and kind of got to see what different aspects of security everyone's working on. And yeah, it was just great because you can kind of tailor what you want to do in the future that way if you talk to other people in the different programs at Microsoft. So that's a very nice thing, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree that I think that especially being an explorer, the entire program is just super supportive of you being able to find your passion, your place at Microsoft. I had a great Explorer manager. And he made sure that I and the other pod members had an opportunity throughout the summer to network with other teams and find other aspects of Microsoft that would be in line with what we were interested in. So for example, one of my pod members was super passionate about compilers, but he didn't know where to get started. And our manager even went ahead and did an intro for him to be able to find the teams that I think he now works on full time. And so through my Explore program experience, I learned that I was super passionate about front-end technology, customer-facing technology. And that's how I was able to find my current team where I work on accessibility. And I've carried some of the things that I learned there into kind of carving my own way of being a dev and also focusing on community engagement, focusing on being an accessibility advocate, and doing all of these things that I've done since, I guess, when I returned in 2017 till now. But yes, I just think that using Microsoft, or not using Microsoft really, being at Microsoft and having this platform to pursue your passions and to make your job your own is one of the best things about the company, in my opinion. And being an Explorer was my introduction to that. And that's where I was really supported, not only by like my mentor, but my manager and the rest of my pod to really bring my full self to work. And it's something that I'm super passionate about. And I think that if you guys choose to be Explorer interns, you'll find it's true for you too.
For me, yeah, it's also helped a lot finding a better team that suits me better. So that's why I ended up in Windows Hardware Architecture, which is something that I always dreamed when I was a kid. But also, for example, outside of work, I'm really an advocate for diversity and inclusion. I really want to inspire mainly the Latin American community to achieve better things, to keep dreaming, to try following their passions. And that's something I found in Microsoft. Like, hey, this is my goal. This is like something I want to do. Maybe it's not related to my day-to-day job, but Microsoft provides the tools and the different platforms in order for us to say, okay, let's work together. Let's jump with different people and let's have a bigger impact. So from events like this one all the way to different, we did a silver lining chatbot challenge a couple months ago where we also had a lot of impact worldwide. So it's something that I'm really passionate about, that I wanted to do something to help my community. And Microsoft provides all the tools and all the different employee resource group in order for us to achieve that and even more. So that's something I really like.
Absolutely. And I know that we're at time, but maybe if I could just have one or two of you kind of talk about how the Explore program really sets you up to explore newer things. I know that Tessa, you kind of hit on this with your sort of passions in education, moving into that space, but were any of you either a PM and then a dev or vice versa?
Yeah, so my first 2 internships, I was a PM my junior year of high school, and then I was a dev my senior year. And so I already had kind of both of the experiences, but the Explore intern really made me realize I like program manager work. And so now I'm coming back as a PM intern. And so that's kind of how it's impacted me, because it really just solidified what I like. And I realized that I really like customer interaction, and I like reaching out to other people at Microsoft, because that's a very big role as a PM. You need to kind of know who does what to get more information. And I really like the social aspect of it, and just being kind of like the brains behind the product release. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we just want to thank all of you for coming out today and spending the last hour with us so that you could meet Microsoft, but also learn a lot more about our Explore program and hopefully get some resources to get into our application pool. If you haven't already, you'll want to go ahead and apply. We know that some of the people in the chat have been adding in our links, and you'll want to stay up to date via our virtual events calendar for all of the events that we have that are happening this fall throughout our virtual hiring season. Thanks again, and we wish you all the best of luck.